Hello and welcome to everyone. Today our guest is UFC fighter Darrick. Darrick, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. And what can you please say in general about yourself, your achievements, your titles, the way how you got into UFC? You know, like an introduction, a brief introduction, then we'll go with questions.
Man, I mean, I wrestled my whole life. I wrestled 1 year in college, and then right after that, I took one MMA fight on a limb, and that was in 2010. And here we are, 51 fights later, fighting in the UFC for the third time.
That's outstanding. So you started training before 2010, or 2010 was the year when you entered the MMA world?
Yeah, I had never trained before my first two fights. I've done, I fought in backyards and streets, but I never before that had fought in the gym. I've never trained in the gym, but yeah, instantly I fell in love with it, and yeah, now here we are.
Is your first sport wrestling?
Yep. I've been wrestling. I've wrestled since I was 4 years old. So,
how would you describe your fighting style in your own words?
Transitional is what I like to say. I can do about anything. I like even, I transition from stand up to ground pretty quick, and then I'm on the ground. I go from submission to submission to submission. I don't stop. The transitions are where I thrive. In the scramble.
Go ahead, please.
I said just in like the scramble situations, I transition well. I don't stop. I just keep going from submission to submission. I keep going from position to position, and yeah, that's pretty much how I've always described my style of fighting.
Do you have a nickname?
No, I do not.
Okay. Who are your coaches and sparring partners?
Who are my coaches and sparring partners? During camp, I'm down here with James Krause at Glory MMA in Kansas City. We got Jason Hyde coaches, Austin Ford coaches, Grant Dawson coaches a little bit. A couple, during wrestling departments, and yeah, man. Sparring partners, man. There's just a lot of them down here. We got the bigger names like, obviously you got James, Grant Dawson, Kevin Kroom, Jason Hyde, guys like that. And then there's a bunch of guys, that really nobody really knows about that are coming up that are some of my training partners too, along with a bunch of other dudes that are guys that are in the UFC and stuff. I mean, we got a variety of training partners. The list goes on and on. No five are the same from day to day, so.
Considering the fact you're coming from wrestling, do you have a favorite wrestling throw?
Wrestling throw? I threw a lot of headlocks when I was in high school and stuff.
Do you have a favorite submission?
Probably the guillotine. I mean, guillotine is probably my best submission. My favorite one. I like the twister positions and stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite strike?
Favorite strike?
Yes.
I mean, whatever lands.
Okay. What can you say about your first professional fight? I mean, how did it go? How did you come to the idea for the first professional fight? The story around it.
That's a long time ago, man. 2012, October 2012, I took a fight after I hadn't fought for 6-7 months. I probably should have took one more amateur fight. Went in there, beating up the kid, got caught in the choke and a guillotine, and yeah, I mean, he was not good at all. I just got caught, and I don't know if the immaturity in me or whatever. I don't think it was like, it was more of a panic tap than it was, when I was 20. I was like, 22, 23 years old. So yeah, man, that's pretty much how it happened. I got beat by some bum.
But in your next fight, you bounced back with a win, right? It was a quick win in your next fight, right?
Yeah. I think I had 5 or 6 wins in a row, but yep.
Watched your victories on Topology, and the majority of them is some kind of a submission. So I would like to ask you a question. Do you prefer guillotine choke or a rear naked choke? You mentioned guillotine, but yeah, guillotine is your favorite, or?
I mean, whatever hits, man. Like, I mean, I do have a lot of guillotines. It was probably my favorite. I have a lot of different varieties of, a guillotine choke or a front choke. Yeah, man. I mean, if a rear naked choke works the next fight or a guillotine works, that'll be my favorite submission. I'm coming off a quick submission and guillotine, and so that's definitely my go-to.
Do you remember your RFA fight versus William Osborne?
First who?
William Osborne, your RFA debut. Do you remember that fight?
Which fight?
RFA debut.
My RFA debut?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, man, I took it on 3 weeks' notice. I fought a kid named Frankie Osborne. I think he was 2-0 or something. His opponent had dropped out. I jumped in there, and yeah, man, it was one of my few decision fights in my career, man. And the kid was tough. Like, I beat him up the whole fight, but he kept going. And the only thing I really remember from that fight, man, I can't even remember my record. I think I was like 7-2 or whatever it was, 6-2. He hit me right at the start of the round. I couldn't even hold up my hands at the third round. He hit me with a body shot. And I like backed up, and he came like running at me to finish me, and it like dropped me, and I ended up double legging him, and I controlled him the rest of the fight. But I'm glad he ran at me and I got the takedown, because that sticks in my mind every day that I think about a body shot. So.
In your career, you fought many big names. For example, your fight versus Luke Saunders was a fight against a very tough opponent. Luke Saunders is a now UFC fighter. So, what do you think about Luke Saunders as the opponent?
Man, Luke's tough, man. Luke's super tough, and he's a cool guy. I've talked to him a lot since that fight. No, a lot of those fights before I moved to 45 were just, I should never have been cut to 35. Like, for Luke, like I cut on passing out. I passed out like twice in that weight cut. Like, I mean, it would have been a grueling fight regardless. But the fact that like I'm coming in when I was going to 135 with like a lot of strikes against me right away, So yeah, I mean, Luke was tough, and he's still tough, and he's a good dude.
I've noticed one Kneebar victory in your topology status. I believe it was against Anthony Hernandez, right?
Yeah, it was against that Hernandez kid. I had both hooks in, and that's how I got the knee bar. I swung for the leg and got the ankle. So it wasn't a traditional knee bar.
According to your own thoughts, on the scale from 1 to 10, how hard it is to establish a knee bar?
I mean, it's tough. It's super tough. Like I actually, I mean, I would never go for a normal knee bar, but I had both hooks in, and I was falling off, and I ended up catching the ankle, and that's how I got him. It was a weird position, but his knee popped several times in that fight.
You fought in LFA too. Today, LFA is one of the greatest springboards for the UFC. But back at that time, I believe the situation was different, right? Or it was the same like today?
As what? What was the same way?
Today LFA is a great springboard for UFC. How was it back then?
Yeah, it's always been. I mean, when it was RFA, so I'm one of the few guys that fought 5 or 6 times in RFA, and I've fought 4 or 5, 6 times in LFA, Yeah, man, it's always been the catapult to UFC. That was always the judge on where you were going with your career, and I think that helped me a lot with those guys that kept putting me on shows, Mark and Ed and as Finn. They kept putting me on the shows, and I kept performing, and the top level competition, the matchmakers see the type of level that I've been fighting at for my first RFA fight was in 2013. So I've always been fighting the top names and top guys coming before the UFC.
You mentioned that Kevin Krum is your sparring partner now, also a UFC fighter. You fought earlier. As much as I think you lost that fight, or right? You lost that fight, or
Yeah,
so?
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah,
did
yeah.
that affect you? I mean, you are training now together. So how did that loss affect you? Did you change something in your game plan after that?
Nah, man, I got super tired. This is what happened. I had a roller coaster a couple months. Kevin's super tough. He's one of those dudes that does not go away. And man, I mean, yeah, I didn't really change much. I in that fight, I believe like what had happened the first round, I dominated, and like he just hangs around, man. He's super good. And I even dropped him. I put him out completely in that fight, and I tackled him, woke him back up. And then the second round, I was so tired from trying to finish the fight, that dude just doesn't go away. And he ends up getting on my back somehow, landing elbows. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it happened. That was my own fight IQ. And yeah, man, that kid is tough as hell, and now I get to train with him every day. And yeah, it is what it is.
You have an outstanding record, and you literally fought everywhere. You even participated at Dana White Contender Series. But to be honest, Herbert Burns is a very, very tough BJJ fighter. So, what are your thoughts on him?
I would love that fight again under James Krause. That's what my thoughts are. Not saying that I felt, that I had a lot of great moments in that fight leading up to getting submitted. And yeah, he's super good. He's good at what he does. But I believe that fight would go a whole lot different under James Krause.
How did you ink UFC contract, and how did your UFC debut go against Grand Dawson?
Man, yeah, that's the thing. The UFC call, how did I ink the deal? I never gave up. That's how I inked the deal. I never gave up, and I've always fought the toughest guys. And even after the Dana White Contender Series fight, and I lost to Herbert, I continued to just fight. Man, I fought the next toughest guy that came, won quick, and then I defended my Dynasty Combat Sports 145 title, won quick, and got the fight on 8 days' notice to fight Grant Dawson, who is now one of my training partners. And yeah, man, we had a crazy first round. I threw a lot of submissions at him. I was not really in shape for that fight. And then he does what he does, and he ended up on my back. And yeah, I mean, that is what it is.
I've never asked anybody this question, but what do you generally think of Dynasty Sports? You fought at that promotion.
What's that?
About the promotion, Dynasty Sports.
Dynasty Combat Sports?
Yes, what do you think about the promotion?
Well, I mean, they are I help co-run a couple of their shows a year, and the owner are a couple of my best friends. So I love the guys. I mean, yeah, they do what they do, and they're some of the best shows in the Midwest, and yeah.
Okay. Who was your toughest opponent before your UFC run? So no UFC, before UFC. Who was the toughest and the hardest opponent for you?
Oh man, I've had some tough ass fights, man. I mean, I would say the Luke Sanders fight was super tough. I mean, that's one fight that I feel like I had lost the first round. Even I had good moments, but I still feel like I lost the first round. And you know, all my losses outside the UFC, the 10 losses that I took, he was probably one of the toughest. I didn't ever feel okay in that fight. I never felt like I was like on the upward scale like I did in the majority of my other fights. But I've also had different types of difficulty. Would be like a guy like Kevin Krum, who just never goes away and just is hanging around, and that you're just wondering what the hell you have to do, and the next thing you know, like you're taking a loss. So I've had a couple of tough fights. Yeah, back then Luke Sanders was definitely one of the toughest opponents for sure.
How did you? All right, this is fan question. How did you surprise TJ Laramie with that famous submission after 52 seconds?
How How did I surprise him? I didn't. I mean, I don't think I surprised anybody. I think he felt like he could defend it, but he's going with the guys that a lot of guys that probably guillotine. He was defending the correct way and stuff. But there's just different variations of how I throw up front chokes and stuff. And I think like he got surprised more by the power punches right off the bat, and then I feel like I just suckered him into wanting to shoot, and that's what happened. So
now this is my question. What was your game plan for the fight against TJ Laramie?
make him shoot, and that's what happened. I mean, pretty much, I didn't think it was going to happen that fast, but I knew that I was going to be able to. Get him in that situation and force panic, and that's what happened.
You are slated to fight Charles Rosa. How's your training going right now? How's the weight cut? And also, fan question: which is your walking weight?
Well, training camp's going great, man. I've been down here at Glory MMA for going on 8. Well, this will be week 7 straight. So pretty much right after we filed the fight, beginning of the year, I headed down here. Yeah, I mean, weight cut's going, the way it's supposed to. I'm just eating all the right things, and it's going to be good. My walking weight is anywhere. I don't know. I don't check when I feel chubby. I don't step on the scale, but I'm guessing it's anywhere from 68 to 72 probably on the normal.
Okay. What are your future plans? I mean, after Rosa fight, do you have some specific plans, or we'll see what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I'll just see what's gonna happen, man. My goal is to pick up 4 wins this year. So, and I'm no stranger to taking short notice fights. So, yeah, I mean, whatever works, whatever they want me to do, I'm good with it. Like I've been in the game a long time. I mean, but I'm still learning. I'm still growing. So if I fight 3 times this year or 5 times, the goal is not to keep climbing up the ladder and yeah, get where I belong.
Would you like to add something to this interview, or maybe to give a shout out to someone? Maybe you would like to greet someone.
Well, man, I'm just everybody that's rode along this journey with me, and everybody new, everybody old, all my family, friends, fans, training partners, gyms, everybody in between.
Thank you so much for the interview. I will put the video to creation now in like 3 or 4 hours. You can expect it. I will send you the video, okay?
Right on, brother. Thank you.